Hi, I'm Michael.
I am Joel.
And I'm Frank.
Today we're going to be talking about Hull City versus Newcastle, Chelsea versus Man City, Arsenal versus Aston Villa, and finally Southampton versus Swansea. First, we're going to tell you about some competitions.
Competition time!
If you guess correctly the highest amount of Premier League goals for a team on the weekend, then you'll be going to Manchester United versus Cambridge in the FA Cup replay. You can find that at Weekend Football on Twitter or /Weekend Football on Facebook. Or alternatively, you can go to Tagboard, which is new, and you'll find it in the description of the SoundCloud. First, we're going to talk about Hull City versus Newcastle. So Hull City take on Newcastle United in the lunchtime kickoff live on BT Sport at 12:45. Hull will be looking to climb out the relegation zone, while Newcastle will be looking to climb back into the top 10 in Steve Carver's first official game in charge as manager. Will his appointment have a positive effect on Newcastle, Joel?
Well, I think it can't have any negative effect, really. Hopefully they should be able to focus on performances on the pitch now, rather than issues off it, which has been the case for some time now. He's a Geordie through and through, so hopefully he knows what it needs to have what it takes to win a game.
But Newcastle have played Burnley, Southampton, Chelsea since Carver took charge, and they've failed to win.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Hull were in bad form right now, but having looked at the form table, Newcastle's form is actually worse than Hull's. Only won 1 of the last 7, and they haven't won away from home in the last 5, losing 4 of them.
I think I'm right in saying the last away win for the Geordies came in November, the Hawthorns. Yeah, 1 of 2 this season, so not great on the road, but yeah, I certainly think the Geordies will be going there on Saturday thinking we can get something from this game.
Yeah, Hull's goal scoring record has been pretty poor. I think they've scored 7 and 12, and they've actually only registered 8 goal scorers this season, and I think 4 of those are only on 1 goal.
Yeah,
really?
And
wow.
To add to that, the biggest 3 players and top goal scorers are actually injured for this game still. You got Jelavic.
He's on 6 goals, isn't he? So he's out.
Yeah, Jelavic is out, Hernandez is out, and Diarme, he's still injured. So I think Steve Bruce will really have his work cut out for this game.
Do you think he's the right man to guide Hull City to a higher Premier League finish? They seem to be
They all
struggling
seem to be floating above it. But
every single season.
But if you get rid of him, who are you going to get in? And to be honest with you, I haven't heard many rumours about Steve Bruce getting the boot.
No, I haven't either, but it was just more of a, is he, because they seem to be hovering around that relegation. Yeah, they had a quite a good cup run last year.
Yeah, got to the final.
But
do you think they'll stay up?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. But they've lost 3 of the last 4. They've lost to Leicester, West Ham and West Brom. And if you're not picking up any points against any of these sides, you're going to go down.
Yeah, you have to beat the teams in and around you. And the last 2 games, they've just lost both of them and failed to score in both games.
Yeah, I'm not saying they should beat every single one of those 3 teams. That they just at least should get either a point or at least a win out of one of the 3.
You'd certainly hope so, but I think going into this final, too early to say final third, I suppose, but going into the remainder of the season, I mean, the only teams that have come and won at the KC this year, Swansea, Spurs, Southampton, Man City, and unfortunately Leicester coming in December. So that isn't a terrible record at home, but then you've got teams like Villa, QPR, Sunderland and Burnley are still all to go to the KC, so they'll certainly be feeling half positive about those games. They're certainly something they can look forward to.
So the outcome then, I think I'm going to go for a Hull win, and I think it'll be convincing. Really? So I've gone for an over 2.5 goals, 11-8 at Coral.
I think it'll be a score draw. You can get best price of 18-5 at Betway. I think it'll be a close game.
Yeah, Joel, bang on there. Correct score I've gone for 2-2. Yeah. 18-1 at 365.
Good odds.
Next, Chelsea versus Man City. After their shocking exit to Bradford last week, Chelsea host Man City, who equally lost to Middlesbrough on the same day at the Etihad. Tough one to call after the 2 results for first and second in the Premier League, surely, Frank?
Yeah, well, it's been coming for a while, hasn't it? We've both been thinking both these sides are supposedly unbeatable, but with the best example coming, as you say, last week, they've both proved that, well, they're quite the opposite. There's certainly, they're fragile at times, and what's going to happen this weekend, Joel?
Well, I think it's the defining point in a title race. In my opinion, if Chelsea win this, they win the league. I can't see Mourinho slipping an 8-point lead at the top, regardless of who's facing who. I think this is the pivotal turning point. I actually think City will win this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think City need to win this game, and then they bridge the gap to 2 points. I know both teams' forms has dipped of late, but I think I actually fancy City.
I don't think Chelsea's have in the league.
Not in the league,
last two, they've scored 7 and haven't conceded.
True. Obviously, they've got 100% record at home.
Yeah, that's
they will,
impressive.
of course, be looking to maintain that.
Conceded only 3 as well.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how good defensively they are. But let's face it, they got battered by Liverpool in the League Cup last week, and then they got knocked out at home against Bradford, who scored 4 goals past them.
Sign of a good team, though, isn't it? Getting, your words, battered at Anfield, but still coming away with a point, the equivalent of a point.
True,
had it been in the league.
They still rode the luck. But even against Liverpool, they put out a full strength team. Yeah, they still got a draw out of it. Against Bradford, yeah, they made some changes, but they still had a strong defence out. Yeah.
Do you think there's anything behind the scenes going on there with Mourinho sort of underestimating the FA Cup?
Maybe, but even still, there's no excuse for.
But either way, he would have sent out that team to win the game.
Yeah,
and
yeah. There was 2-0 up.
Well, yeah, you're right.
you can't be throwing that away.
Well, going on to Man City, they got the best away form in the league. They've won 7 out of their 11, which is pretty impressive. Although they haven't won they've only won 1 of the last 4. So again, a dip in form. These are the 2 teams that are arguably the best squads in the Premier League, but are arguably not the best playing at the moment.
No, like you said, they've only won 1 of the last 4. But I actually always like backing City because they always tend to give me a good run for the money. I've won a lot of money off them, and I fancy them to step up to the plate and get a win.
Frank Lampard to feature?
Yeah, I'm sure he'll get.
He's injured, isn't he?
No, he came back on against Borough. Yeah, I'd actually even have a little flutter on him at 10-3 at Coral. To be an anytime goal scorer.
Yeah, I picked that out as well, yeah. I mean, we can almost guarantee if he does feature, it'll be a second half substitute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
I suppose City have won 2 of the last 8 head-to-heads too, so that's a home win for me. I'm going to go BTTS plus result for Chelsea. Get 11-4 at Coral, not a great price, but...
in my opinion, Man City at 31-10 with Bet Victor is a very tasty price. Probably my bet of the weekend, to be honest. Plenty of value to be had there. That's what I'd be backing.
That's brave, yeah. I've gone just plain and simple over 2.5 goals, 5-6 with Bet Victor.
Next is the quiz. 3 questions for you. Number 1. The African Cup of Nations is in full swing, meaning the top Premier League teams are missing some of their prized assets. Can you tell me the highest goal-scoring African to grace the Premier League?
Wow.
What?
when expecting that. Frank, any ideas?
No, I'm embarrassed to say no. Not a clue.
Not any idea. I'll give you a clue. He's currently playing in the Premier League.
Highest scoring Premier League African.
All right, I'm going to tell you because this is just embarrassing. Didier Drogba.
Oh, of course.
He scored 101 goals.
101, right? Wow.
God.
Sorry, Didier.
Who won the European Cup in the first 5 seasons from 1955 to 1960?
Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Oh,
well done, Joel.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Pressure's off.
What was... This is quite a funny one. You're never going to get this, but I thought I'd include this one because it's quite funny. What was strange about the tackle that ended the career of keeper Sheik Brody of Brentford in 1970?
How on earth would we know that?
I'm not expecting you to. I just want to tell you the answer.
Go
Really.
on.
No,
so-
go on.
He collided with a dog.
Really?
He torn his ligaments.
Would you mind answering how a dog managed to get anywhere near the goalkeeper?
Well, he probably ran on the pitch, probably. But Brody
so
summed
unlucky.
up the incident by saying that the dog may have been small, but it just happened to be solid.
Okay, right.
Unlucky.
Moving back to the football. Arsenal versus Aston Villa. Arsenal host Aston Villa in the first Sunday game of the day, live on Sky Sports 1 at 13:30. Arsenal will be looking to add pressure to Manchester United. They sit only a point behind their rivals. Villa, however, will be looking for their first win in 7. Oh dear.
Oh dear, indeed. Yeah, I'll be there on Sunday. We managed to register a 3-1 win there last season. It was very much the Benteke show. I can't see a repeat.
I can't
On
see it
Sunday.
repeat either, mate.
No.
I think Arsenal are looking a force again. They've won 4 out of the last 5 games, and they've won the last 4 at home. They've got key players returning from injury, Walcott and Ozil in the League Cup, both on a score sheet as well. And now Riziki is hitting form as well.
Yeah,
So
too right.
I think it's a very difficult time to face Arsenal.
Yeah, I've watched them a few times recently. Last week, their last home match against Stoke, and I also watched bits of their FA Cup match against Hull, and they dominated right from the off. And those teams I just mentioned didn't look in it. And I think that'll be a very similar story come Sunday. But I can't see Villa getting anywhere near them, to be honest.
To be fair to Villa, I know they're without a win in their last 7 league games, but their defence really isn't that bad. Only conceded 9 from the last 12, and full credit to Lambert for that because they're missing Ron Vlaar.
Yeah.
So obviously the lack of goals is clearly the problem.
Scored 6 goals in the last 12, but only conceded 9. So strike balls to blame or lack of service. I think I saw a graphic on Sky Sports where the 3 attacking midfielders of Villa, I think, have created about 8 chances between them this season.
I think Cesc Fabregas, for example, of Chelsea.
Yeah, it was the same one.
It's exactly the same.
I mean,
Yeah.
Benteke is a top striker, and they're just lacking that final ball up top. But obviously with Carlos Gil, is it? Who's just signed for them?
Heel, I
Heel,
think.
yeah.
As a Spaniard, I think you're supposed to pronounce it.
Either or. He looks like could be a good player for you.
Yeah, it's just creativity. I mean, speaking as a Villa fan, for years now, it's what we've been lacking. We've had a few good front men, but just no one to provide them any service.
Well, it's a good time to play Villa at the moment. They've in their last 7 that they haven't won, they've failed to score in the 6.
Wow, really?
Wow.
I think I read that Villa have scored the least amount of goals in all 9 divisions of English football.
Wow, that says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Stats are flying.
stats are flying all over the place.
Lambert, how long has he got then?
He's on borrowed time, in my
I think
opinion.
so too.
Well, yeah, he's been. This is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, his 3rd season at Villa now, and he's taken us practically nowhere.
It's like he's convinced the fans that being a mediocre club is not acceptable.
Yeah,
And I personally think, a team that used to be a big team should have more ambition than what he's currently.
That's the word, Joel. You've hit it on the head. Ambition. It seems, coming from the club now, that we're just settling with 15th place every year when it just isn't good enough, is it? So
is Lambert the problem or is Lerner the problem?
I think it's a combination of both. I don't think Lambert's a bad manager, but I just don't think. Wow. I just don't think he's used to being in this situation.
Yeah.
I mean, you look, where's he been before? Norwich, Colchester. He's not ever been in charge of a Premier League club driving, to become top half and then, above that.
Well, Ozil's back for Arsenal. That means some other key players going to get injured soon. But for me, Arsenal win. -2, just under 3-1 at BetVictor. Or, if you're feeling brave, -5. Arsenal, 19-1. Not even that great either.
Yeah, no, pretty sure. I think it'll be an easy Arsenal win. But to be honest with you, I wouldn't go anywhere near them at 1-4, purely because I think Villa can always cause upsets against the big teams. But that being said, I'd still back Arsenal -1, 8-11 with Sky Bet.
Okay, yeah, I completely agree with you. I think Arsenal whitewash on Sunday. They're 8-5 at Betfair to win both halves, and 19-5 to be leading after 10 minutes.
Next game and final game, Southampton versus Swansea. The most informed team in the Premier League take on Swansea in the last live game of the weekend. Southampton will be looking to win as the top two play each other, while Gary Monk will want to prove to the fans they can do it without Boney.
Yeah, Southampton looking really strong again. As you said, top of the form table, unbeaten in their last 6, winning 5 of them. I've been really impressed with Ronald Koeman this season. They seem to be so organised at the back, restrict teams to very few clear-cut chances, and it shows in the stats. You know, they've only conceded 16 goals this season, and they've kept the most clean sheets. So full credit to them.
They've won 5 of the last 6 as well, with a draw at Chelsea rounding off a 6-game unbeaten run. So,
will it last, guys? Is this just one of these things that will peter out towards the end of the season, or
no? I think it'll last. I mean, we said that around Christmas when they had that bad run that this was going to be them dropping off now, but they've kept up there.
Yeah,
they
you're right.
Us all wrong.
I'll be the first to admit I thought it would peter out. I thought they'd slump to about 6th or 7th place, but to be fair to them, they've continued to defy all the critics.
Yeah,
I actually wrote a week before the season, August. I did a preview of Southampton, and I said they get relegated.
Really?
Good thing I didn't put that out.
To be honest, a lot of people would have agreed with you. You know,
I know.
Yeah.
Manager gone. God knows how many first team players went in the summer. But they just seem to be one of those teams where you can take the manager, take the players, take the backroom staff. And they keep on producing.
Good structure from them. Well, let's move on to Swansea. They haven't won since Boxing Day, where they last beat
Aston Villa.
Aston Villa.
Yeah, shock.
They want to forget their 5-0 defeat at Stamford Bridge, though, won't they?
Yeah, like you said, they just haven't won in 4, lost 2, drawn 2. You'd expect a reaction for this game, considering the humiliation when they lost 5-0. Prior to that game, they'd scored in 7 consecutive matches, so I fancy them to score again. But I still think Southampton would be too much for them.
Yeah, again, Joel, I don't think I've ever said this before, but I completely agree with you on 3 times today.
BTTS plus result for me, Southampton to win at 10-3 at Coral.
Yep, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, 100%.
Thanks for listening. Next show, we've got North London derby, Spurs versus Arsenal, Everton versus Liverpool, another derby, Burnley versus West Brom, Newcastle versus Stoke, and finally West Ham versus Manchester United.
Download the Football Coupon app on iPhone and Android for best odds, bet tracking, live Opta data, and score forecasts. For more information, check out footballcoupon.co.uk.